Well, and Twitter has been a buzz after Rahul Gandhi's speech in Lok Sabha. Let's quickly take a look at some of the tweets that have come in. Those tweets are being flashed on your television screens at the moment. Happy that RG is finally getting his detractors.
In our time,
basically the tweets are around Rahul Gandhi's new and aggressive speech that he's delivered in Parliament today. In fact, as compared with yesterday's speech at the rally, many believe that today's speech was more rooted in the ground reality and much more aggressive, with the 28 Congress MPs supporting and cheering Rahul on during his speech in Parliament. All right, consulting editor Rajdeep Sardesai is now with us in the studio, as well as managing editor TV Today Group Rahul Kanwal is also with us. Let me first go across to Rajdeep. Rajdeep, were you impressed with Rahul Gandhi's speech in Parliament? Was he aggressive enough?
Look, I think the expectations of Rahul Gandhi are so low that, the moment he's seen to have a flash of aggression, suddenly you think, oh, Rahul's done very well. My own sense is, purely if you look at substance, his speech was very average. I didn't see anything in the speech which gave me a sense that this was a newly minted Rahul Gandhi in terms of substance. It's all very well to say it's a suit boot sarkar, but then you've got to provide hard evidence. Beyond providing a few facts that are already in the public domain about agricultural credit, I didn't see anything that gave me a sense that this was a truly newly minted Rahul in terms of substance. In terms of body language, in terms of the fact that he actually intervened in this debate, the fact that he was able to respond to the opposition rather well in Parliament when they tried to stop him from speaking, I thought he performed much better than expectation. But on the whole, yes, he passed, but I'm not willing to give him a first class. By no stretch of imagination was this speech which would get him more than 60% marks in an examination. So it was an average speech in my view. The good thing, at least from a Congress perspective, is at least their leader is there and he seems to be ready to lead from the front. From that perspective, from the body language perspective, I think you have to give him much more than 6 out of 10. So in terms of substance, much less than 6 out of 10. In terms of body language, in terms of just the attempt to be aggressive and to lead the party from the front on this issue, more than 6 out of 10. But expectations of Rahul Gandhi, as I said, are often very low. So we judge him by an extremely low standard.
But he's leading the party from the front, Rajdeep, after the spade work has already been done by his mother in the first half of the budget session. She was the one leading the charge and taking a united opposition against the government as far as land acquisition was concerned.
Absolutely. And then you made a point before you started this. Where was the opposition, the other opposition leaders when Rahul was speaking? No Mulayam, no Deva Gowda. Now all these parties were there with Sonia Gandhi when she was leading the party towards Rashtrapati Bhavan. So I think Sonia Gandhi still commands respect. Rahul Gandhi still has to earn that respect, not just so much of his own Congress MPs, but the other opposition leaders. And my sense at the end of the day is Rahul Gandhi is going to have to now walk the talk. And walk the talk doesn't mean speaking in Parliament only. Maybe take a Padayatra. If he believes so strongly about this, go to all the villages where unseasonal rains have taken place, where crops have been damaged, where there is a spectre of drought looming, where Kisans have committed suicide, and tell me, go and find out the reason and then come and tell the country why you believe this land bill is responsible for the plight of the farmer. I still haven't got a connection between the plight of the farmer and the land bill. So I think there the Congress is deliberately confusing issues. But I will say this, that what they've done is push the Modi government on the defensive by constantly saying suit boot ki sarkar. So somehow identifying this government as a government of fat cats. And I think that is hurting this government somewhere. So they've got to be concerned about that. Even if they don't treat Rahul Gandhi as seriously as perhaps they should, certainly the issues which he has raised could resonate, and I think they've got to be conscious of that.
Let me go across to Congress's Sanjay Jha. He's joining us on the phone line now. Sanjay, if the Congress was so serious about Rahul Gandhi's speech in Parliament today, where were 16 of your MPs? Why were they not present, even though there was an oral whip in place? And where were the opposition leaders like Mulayam and Deva Gowda?
Well, I think we need to graduate from these very facile discussions. I mean, there are times when Mr. Gandhi is not there, that becomes the center of discussion. Today, if some MPs are not there, I think the real core fundamental issue that we should be talking about is Mr. Gandhi raising a very, very pertinent question. That is this government serious about addressing the problems of 67 to 70% of India that lives in the rural parts of India? Most of them, if not all of them, have small marginal agricultural holdings who are vulnerable to a land bill that is frankly draconian, whereby state or a private party and a public partnership model can end up exploiting them. So I think, I don't know, I think it was Rajdeep who was there before on your channel, to say that the land bill does not actually target the farmer negatively if implemented in its current form will, I think, underestimate.
Mr. Sanjay Jha, you are misreading me, and not for the first time does the Congress do this. I think the question to ask Mr. Jha is whether there is in some way, whether the land bill is responsible for agrarian distress. You live in Maharashtra. Are you aware that 60,000 farmers have committed suicide in Maharashtra since 1995? And through much of these 20 years, the Congress was in power in Maharashtra. The point I'm making is Rahul Gandhi is going to have to convince me, and not so much me, but the farmers of the country, that their present woes, whether it's because of unseasonal rain or because of rural indebtedness and agrarian distress, is because of failed agrarian policies over the last 2 decades, not necessarily because of the land acquisition bill. And if you do believe that, please show me the direct connection between the land acquisition bill as it is drafted today and the fact that for the last 20 years, farmers have been committing suicide in Maharashtra.
Rajiv, the larger point that you're making is absolutely valid. The land acquisition bill by itself is not the only challenge that the agrarian sector faces today. Absolutely right. I mean, there is the whole issue of, better rural infrastructure management. There is a greater role in terms of seeds, the whole challenge of irrigation, in multi-diversified crops. I mean, there is absolutely no denying the education of the farmer, looking at alternative occupations.
But I don't hear the Congress speak of that. Mr. Jha, I don't hear the Congress tell me how are you going to make the farmer more productive. I thought Venkaiah Naidu made a good point that most farmers' sons don't want to be farmers anymore. You are not telling me how farming is going to be made more productive. How are you going to provide jobs to the children of small and marginal farmers? This debate seems to be stuck at the moment in rhetoric, because you have found a stick with which you want to beat Narendra Modi with. Now that is your political battle. I want to know what are you doing to make agriculture more productive. So why doesn't Rahul Gandhi offer a vision, a larger plan for the Indian farmer, rather than saying this government is of fat cats? That's not enough.
Rajdeep, let me tell you, let's address, I mean, if you want to discuss the larger issue of India's more balanced rural development, we can do that. The point that we are making at this point of time is that the land bill, the ordinance that this government has moved, just look at the dimensions of it. This is a government that backed it. You had actually the standing committee was headed by Sumitra Mahajan of the BJP. It went through several debates, was passed in Parliament. It has not been tested in terms of its operational capabilities. And you have the government doing a complete U-turn on it. It's absolutely unjustified. And I can debate with you on the land bill, but let's take one simple example, Rajdeep. Let's not even go into the details of the land bill. Let's look at the consent clause. You gave me an example because I can tell you the BJP has been spreading this very, very deceptively that the farmers want to sell their land and move to the urban cities to lead their lives. What they're not telling you is if 45% of the farmers really want to sell their land and move on, then why is the BJP scared of a 70 or an 80% consent clause? I think there is an obvious inherent contradiction in that statement. And what they're not telling you is that the people who are leaving the farmlands and coming to urban parts of India are doing so out of sheer desperation, because that's where you're right, that we are not able to improve agrarian conditions enough. They are coming to Mumbai and cities like Delhi and driving cars and are leading very, very, they're living virtually at borderlines of pecuniary lives.
Sanjay Jha, this is a very complex issue. Let's be clear. This is not a straightforward, and the fact is I didn't see the complexity in Rahul Gandhi's argument. My worry is this parliament speech was an opportunity for him to explain the complexity of the agrarian crisis facing the country. Simply giving me agricultural credit figures and giving a nice quote of M.S. Swaminathan that a country is built on its grain, not on guns. All those are fine words. I want to know whether he is willing to go in depth into clause by clause of the Land Acquisition Act, like a Jairam Ramesh, for example, has been willing to do. And that is where I wonder whether Rahul Gandhi is more a prisoner of the rhetoric, and that to a rhetoric of an earlier era, rather than actually being able to give me a more coherent idea what ails the Indian Kisan. That's why I'm sorry to say, I am still not willing to give him a first class for his speech today. He should have come better prepared to provide a vision for what he wants to do for the farmer, not simply make one or two pot shots at the opposition. That did not work for me. I'm sorry, Sanjay Jha. Yes, it was good to see that he was aggressive. It was good to see that he was leading from the front. But my point is, where is the larger cohesive, coherent plan for the Indian farmer that the Congress party has to offer? So you may disagree with what Mr. Modi is doing, but you need to provide me an alternative vision, which I'm sorry to say, Rahul Gandhi in this speech at least did not do so.
Rajdeep, very quickly, let me respond to that. Mr. Gandhi's, I think his entire vision on the land bill, and not just the land bill, if you even add the Food Security Act, which you know right now, this government is actually delaying that as well. I think Mr. Gandhi's contributions in the whole construction of the land bill has been there from the very, very outset. You'll read Jairam Ramesh's own admission in an interview recently that the whole concept of even its whole positioning and resettlement and rehabilitation is something that Mr. Gandhi's inputs were really incorporated in. I think let's look at the critical picture here. The critical picture here, Rajdeep, is that you got to be pragmatic about this issue, because I think when Mr. Gandhi said today that why is Mr. Modi and his government ignoring a significant chunk of India's population, because it seems to have got its priorities wrong. You and I both know it. I'm sure you're aware of it. That end of day, this government's entire, if you look at its pronouncements, its policies, its entire focus has been, and I'm not talking about just the optics of Mr. Modi's governance, has been on overseas investment, FDI, stock market capitalization. But there is a little talk about an agricultural focus for this government.
Okay.
And like it or not, agriculture provides raw material for industry. Agriculture is facing the largest amount of unemployment challenges. This guy's unemployment is high.
Right. All right, Sanjay Jha, we do understand that the Congress has some newfound confidence with Rahul Gandhi speaking there in Parliament. Let me bring in Rahul Kanwal as well into this debate. Now, Rahul, we've seen Rahul Gandhi being aggressive, at least body language-wise, even in the past. He's rolled up his sleeves and spoken at rallies. Was he any different today in Parliament?
The new beefed up version of Rahul Gandhi, and you should have seen the anxiety writ large on the faces of the Congress leaders as Rahul started speaking. But as he went through with his speech, the faces of the next-gen Congress leaders who were surrounding him lit up. They felt more confident given that their captain seemed to be finding some form. Yes, Rajdeep's absolutely right when he says the speech lacked substance. But the reality is, here's a batsman who's been sent out to bat. He's being sledged at by everyone around him. The BJP MPs tried their best to disrupt his rhythm. Despite that, he was able to stand his ground, make the broad rhetorical points that he wanted to, and inspire. Because after that, we've been speaking to several next-gen Congress leaders, and they've just come back so relieved, so thrilled that finally Rahul Gandhi, this is just his third big speech in Parliament in all these years that he's been there, he finally was able to have his say. If you look at the responses on social media as well, for once Rahul seems to have got a positive response. This is what people want to see. The finer points of the debate are important, but essentially posturing is important, your delivery is important, whether you seem confident or not is very, very important in a 24/7 television arena. And in that scenario, Rahul was able to lift the sagging spirits of his team. The question is, will he be able to sustain it? Is this just a one-off cameo? Is he here to stay? Can he do an encore day after day? Because this is not going to be about one speech in Parliament. He has to be able to sustain it out in the streets. And unless he does so, this will just be yet another false start for Rahul Gandhi.
Rajdeep, Rahul made a very interesting point there. There was some sort of sledging there in Parliament, an indirect reference made to him when Venkaiah Naidu said, Pappu, sit down. And
I'm wondering whether he was referring to him or Pappu Yadav.
He was referring to Pappu Yadav, perhaps.
Yes,
but
yes. Let's be fair to Venkaiah.
All right. And also pot shots taken at his the sabbatical that he took. Despite that, we saw him smiling and just letting go of all the comments that were thrown at him. Do you think that is a confident Rahul that people wanted to see, at least his party?
I think that was the best thing about it. I think Rahul is absolutely right. Our Rahul is absolutely right that there was some kind of confidence which was there, particularly in a parliament where the opposition is looking, or the BJP-led government is looking to embarrass Rahul Gandhi. You remember there was that one moment where he says, Aapka Pradhan Mantri. Yes. And immediately the opposition turned around and said, Aapka nahi hai kya, Desh ka Pradhan Mantri bolo. He said, Rahul responded rather well. He said, when I say Aapka, it doesn't mean he's not Desh ka. Sabka hai, aapka hai ki nahi. So there was, at least that was an element of spontaneity, which was good. I thought there was that flash of spontaneity, a flash of aggression, which is what the Congress party, when you are in the state that you are, you want to see from your leader. Where I come back to it though, that it is not enough for him to go on just repeating that this is a suit boot ki sarkar. He's now going to have to show what is his alternative vision and actually going to act on that alternative vision. But as a first step, I'm giving him 5.5 out of 10. So just short of that 6 out of 10, because I would have liked to see a little bit more substance. Or maybe at a stretch, I'll give him 6 out of 10. I think 6 out of 10, which is more than what we generally give a Rahul speech. So it's a positive sign from that perspective. But I just wish, you know, I just wish I'd see a little bit more in terms of substance from him, because that's really what this debate should be about. You know, this debate on land acquisition is a complex issue, and it cannot be reduced simply to scoring, you know, you're a suit boot ki sarkar.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to work.
All right, let me go across now to Rahul Kanwal. Rahul, how would you first of all rate Rahul Gandhi's speech today? And even though Rajdeep says it was low on substance, has his speech in some way at least set the tone for the land war for the second half of the budget session?
Maha, let me first set out the context to my rating. Here is Rahul Gandhi coming in after this long sabbatical. He's been made the butt of a lot of jokes. People within his party raising concerns in public about his leadership capabilities. He spoke at the Ram Leela Maidan. I was there yesterday. Most people were rather disinterested in his message. They were just looking here and there. They weren't paying attention to Rahul speak when he was making his big speech. Unlike when Modi is speaking, everybody's really firmly focused on what he's saying. People are not particularly interested in Rahul's speech yesterday, at least the crowd that had come. Given that, given the low base of expectations, I think Rahul did really well. 7.5 is what I'd say, because he was able to engage, he was able, and this is when he was peppered at with a lot of chin music, and they really went after him, trying to get him to falter. He stood his ground. He raised them, because see, the Congress leaders weren't necessarily looking for the nuance of the land bill debate. They were looking for their leader to enthuse them, to motivate them, to make them feel as if they were in the fight. You see how impassioned Jyotiraditya Scindia was this morning. Now, all their spirits have been sagging the last several weeks. Suddenly, with him right in the middle, taking the bullets head on, they feel inspired, they feel confident. Now, if Rahul can sustain this, the nuance will fall into place. The more elaborate points are there. The farmers are really badly off at this time. That's something the Congress can build on. But it requires the leader to be out in the ground, playing the government, and that's what he did today. He put himself out there, which he didn't do. Remember, the last time there was a debate on land acquisition, Rahul didn't even bother to attend. So given all of that, given poor expectations, I'd say 7.5.
All right, 6.5 by Rahul, Rajdeep, 7.5 by Rahul. But Rahul, do you think collectively this will make the government nervous?
They're not really worried about Rahul Gandhi. Derisively, people in the BJP say the longer he stays in charge of the Congress party, the better it is for us. They've gone to the extent of saying this is the surest guarantee that, you know, people will look at our government in positive light. But they're really worried about the negative fallout of this debate around land acquisition. Remember, this debate about land acquisition comes at a time when there have been very significant unseasonal rains, the worst kind that we've seen in the last several years. Farmers are genuinely badly off, and when you're really badly off, that time you tend to believe all that is being thrown at your at your way, and that really worries the BJP. They're truly worried, whether it's an Amit Shah, whether it's the Prime Minister, whether it's Mr. Jaitley themselves. They're truly worried about the perception that's going out, because remember, in meetings that they do with RSS Karyakartas, the message that's coming to them is that people believe that this government is turning to be pro-corporates, anti-poor people. That message is going back. That's what they're more worried about. That's what they're trying to counter.
Absolutely. There is a so-called perception that the government is anti-poor, anti-farmer, which the government is battling at the moment. Rahul Kanwal and Rajdeep Sardesai, many thanks for joining us this evening.